Hi friends, Mrs. DeMarco back with another chapter of Monday with a Mad Genius. I wanted to revisit our chapter from Friday. It was at the very end where Leonardo had this great idea after speaking with Jack and Annie, and he says, "Today the great bird shall rise aloft high into the sky, and the universe shall be filled with wonder." And I had asked you, I wonder what he's going to do, because he was so inspired by what Jack and Annie said about airplanes, and he loves birds and how to fly. My guess is that he's going to, I don't know, do something with birds and flying. So let's find out. Chapter 7, The Great Bird. Leonardo shook the reins. The white horse clopped out of the courtyard and into the street. "So where are we going?" Annie asked. "To a steep hill just outside the city walls," said Leonardo. "One day you will tell people that you were with me on this historic Monday. You saw the mad genius, Leonardo da Vinci, and his great bird." "Cool, but can you tell us exactly what you're planning to do?" said Jack. "For 25 years I have sketched birds and bats," said Leonardo. "I have studied all their movements, their gliding, their flapping, their landing, and their rising into the air. I have asked myself over and over, why can a person not fly as birds do? So, years ago, I began building my great bird." "Your great bird?" asked Annie. "Ha ha!" laughed Leonardo. "Wait and see, wait and see." The horse pulled the cart through the city gates, heading into the countryside. The chilly air was warmed by bright sunlight. Leonardo tugged on the reins, and his horse turned off the main road and started up a narrow, rocky path. The cart bumped past pale green olive trees and yellow fields of wildflowers. Soon it came to the bottom of a very steep hill. Leonardo pulled the reins, and his horse halted. "There, can you see it?" he said. "My great bird." He pointed to a strange-looking structure on the top of the hill. "What is it?" asked Jack. "The wings are those of a bat, only much, much larger." "Large enough for a man," said Leonardo. "About a month ago, on a moonlit night, my apprentices and I brought it to the top of this hill. I do not have the confidence to try it then, but I do now." Jack was confused. He knew people didn't fly airplanes until the beginning of the 1900s. Maybe you should work on this one a little longer," he said. "I mean, maybe—" No, today is the day. I feel it," said Leonardo. "Stay here and watch." Leonardo leapt down from the cart and took long strides up the steep slope. "Quick, look up Great Bird in the Leonardo book," Annie said to Jack. Jack pulled out their research book and looked up Great Bird in the index. "It's here," he said. He found the right page and read aloud. "Leonardo da Vinci spent years making a flying machine that he called the Great Bird. But no one until the invention of lightweight motors nearly 400 years after Leonardo's time would human flight be possible. It is not known whether Leonardo ever tried to fly the Great Bird. If he did, he surely crashed." "Oh no," said Annie. "His machine won't work. If Leonardo tries to fly off that hill, he'll crash. We'll have to stop him before he hurts himself." Annie jumped out of the cart. Jack put the book away. He left his bag in the cart and ran after her. They started up the steep hill. "Leonardo, stop!" shouted Annie. But Leonardo kept climbing. "Human flight isn't possible yet," Jack cried. "Don't try it, Leonardo," yelled Annie. Jack and Annie were only halfway up the hill when Leonardo reached the top. He began strapping himself into a harness of the Great Bird. Large handles were attached to the harness. On each side were huge cloth wings stretched over a wooden frame. "Don't!" shouted Jack. But Leonardo was already staggering toward the edge of the steep hill with the flying machine on his back. It was so heavy that he could hardly stand up. "Leonardo, stop!" cried Annie. "You need a motor." But Leonardo bent his legs and lowered his body close to the ground. He grabbed the two large handles and pulled them toward his chest. The huge wings rose into the air. "The Great Bird raises its wings and is pushed by the wind," shouted Leonardo. "No!" yelled Jack and Annie. Leonardo leapt off the side of the hill into the air. A gust of wind lifted him. As the wind held his wings aloft, he pushed and pulled on the handles. The wings moved up and down. But Leonardo couldn't make the wings flap fast enough. Though he pushed and pulled wildly on the handles, he soon began falling through the air until wings and wood and Leonardo all crashed to the ground. Leonardo! Yelled Annie. Jack and Annie charged down the hill. At the bottom, Leonardo da Vinci lay in a silent heap. He twisted wings spread over the grass. Jack and Annie rushed to him. "Are you all right?" cried Annie. There was no answer. "Oh, no, we've killed him," thought Jack. But then Leonardo stirred. He moved his hand. "Are you all right?" Annie asked again. Leonardo moved his other hand. He rolled over on his side and unbuckled the straps of the harness. He crawled away from the flying machine and hauled himself to a sitting position. His face was scraped and red. "Are you all right?" Annie asked once more. Leonardo looked at her. The light had gone out of his eyes. "No," he said in a quiet voice. "I am not all right." "Did you break something?" asked Annie. Leonardo stood up. He stared at the twisted and torn wings of the great bird. He sighed deeply. "Only my heart," he said. "Only my heart." Leonardo turned and limped across the grass back towards his horse and cart. Jack and Annie followed. When Leonardo got to the cart, his white horse snorted as if trying to comfort him. Leonardo pressed his head against the horse's neck. Annie stepped toward him. "Why is your heart broken, Leonardo?" she asked quietly. Leonardo looked back at the hill. "All my life, I have started projects that have come to nothing," he said. "My towers and bridges have never been built. My scientific ideas have never been proven." "But," said Annie. Leonardo went on. "For years, I made drawings of an enormous horse I planned to sculpt for the Duke of Milan. But in the end, that work came to nothing too. I have finished only a few paintings. I cannot even finish my favorite one, a portrait of a lovely lady in Florence. Today, my fresco in the hall of the Great Council was ruined. But always, in spite of all my failures, one thing brought me comfort." "What?" asked Jack. "I knew someday I would be the first person in the world to fly," said Leonardo. His voice quavered. "Talking with the two of you, I knew the time had finally come to test my machine." "We're sorry," said Annie. No, I had to test it sooner or later," said Leonardo. "But now that dream, too, has come to nothing. I will never achieve fame by flying. I will never fly." He hung his head and stared at the ground. "I shall go home now. I shall burn all my notebooks and my unfinished paintings and inventions. I shall leave Florence and never return." "Oh, no," said Jack. "Wait a minute," said Annie. "You will fly." "Annie," Jack warned. Since the machine would never work, he didn't want her to give Leonardo false hope. "You are going to fly," Leonardo said, Annie, "and you're going to love it." "Annie, human flight isn't possible at this time in history," Jack whispered to Annie. "A person needs a motor, and we don't have a motor." But Annie paid no attention. "Hold on, everyone, just hold on," she said. "I have to get something." She climbed into the cart and reached into Jack's bag. When Annie turned back around, Jack gasped. He had forgotten all about the wand of Dianthus. And that, my friends, is the end of chapter 7. I really like Annie's spirit. I know I've said that before, and I feel bad for Leonardo, but if you've done any research on him, again with your parents' permission, you know that he does turn out to be a success. Maybe not in his lifetime. Well, maybe we'll figure that out at the end of the book, but he does finish that painting, aka the Mona Lisa, and he is a success. So that is the end of this chapter. Until next time, see ya.